A predator in a bowler hat, Alex DeLarge isn't just a villain, he's the embodiment of chaos. This man wins by crawling out of the wreckage of society, free to wreak havoc once again. Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel is less about redemption and more about the terrifying resilience of evil when institutions fail on every front. And Alex, he's the smug and grinning face of that failure. From the very first moment, Alex is a charming sign of pure cruelty. Dressed in white like an angel of death, with his fake eyelash and drugged milk, he roams the streets with his gang, beating, assaulting, and stealing. There is no excuse, no sad past. Moreover, he's not broken or misunderstood. He's just bored, and violence is how he fills the void. But then everything changes. After a violent crime too much even for his friends, they turn on him, and he's arrested. The government sees a chance to make an example of him, to prove they can fix evil with science. That's when they try the Ludovico technique, a harsh experiment that strips Alex of his ability to fight back. Strapped in a chair, eyes pried open, he's forced to watch horrible images until violence makes him physically sick. But he's not sorry or healed, just made harmless. Then the story gets even darker. The experiment backfires and turns Alex into a political problem. People start to feel sorry for him. So what does the government do? They reverse the treatment. They bring the old Alex back, and just like that, the monster returns smiling and free again. The movie's last shot says it all. Alex daydreaming about sex and violence, grinning under falling snow as people cheer. But it's not about healing, it's a victory shout. Kubrick doesn't just let the villain win, he makes it feel like there was never another outcome. And that's not how the book ends. Anthony Burgess's novel had one final chapter, cut from the US version and ignored by Kubrick. In it, Alex grows up. He gets tired of hurting people, he dreams of having a family, he begins to choose good. Meanwhile, Kubrick refused to show that. He removed the idea that people like Alex can grow or change. Instead, he leaves us with a terrifying truth. Some people don't evolve, they just wait until they can strike again. And that's the real horror. The villain doesn't get what he deserves, he gets everything he wants. In Primal Fear, Aaron Stampler doesn't just win, he devours the system that tried to cage him. At first glance, Aaron is nobody's idea of a threat. A frail, stuttering altar boy with soft eyes and a tragic history found cowering at the scene of a savage crime, the mutilation and murder of Chicago's beloved Archbishop Rushman. Blood is everywhere. Aaron's hands are stained, but he swears he didn't do it. He couldn't have done it. Then there's Martin Vale, the hotshot defense attorney with a talent for courtroom theatrics and a taste for high-profile cases. Vale smells headlines. He sees an easy win and maybe a little redemption for defending the innocent. What he doesn't see is the darkness staring back at him. As the trial unfolds, so does Aaron's trauma. Stories of abuse at the hands of the Archbishop begin to surface. Aaron trembles, cries, dissociates, and the courtroom watches in silence as Vale paints a picture of a broken boy pushed to the edge. This brings us to Roy, a foul-mouthed, violent alter ego buried inside Aaron. Under pressure, Roy lashes out in court, revealing a fractured psyche, a classic case of dissociative identity disorder. Vale pivots fast as he finds a defense built on insanity. A killer who's not in control. The jury buys it, and Aaron Stampler is declared not guilty by reason of insanity. At this point, the boy walks free. In a final confrontation, Vale visits Aaron in his holding cell, trying to console him, trying to make sense of the horror they just survived. Aaron thanks him, and then he slips, revealing a detail he shouldn't know, a phrase only Roy used. And there it is. The stammer fades, the boyish innocence vanishes, and Roy smiles. It turns out there was never an Aaron. Everything in every single moment was a lie. The stutter, the fear, the fragility. Roy created Aaron, wore him like a mask, and played the world like a controller. The abuse was fabricated and the disorder was faked. Vale, the jury, and the public all fell for it. Roy acted his way out of a murder charge with a performance so convincing it shook the justice system to its core. Aaron Stampler, or better known as Roy, didn't just escape punishment. He orchestrated it, and the real ending of Primal Fear isn't a courtroom victory. It's a villain winning with a terrifying plan. Noah Cross. In Chinatown, justice never ever shows up. And at the center of that failure is Noah Cross, the embodiment of unchecked power. A titan of industry, an architect of chaos, and a man whose crimes run so deep they infect the soul of an entire city. Noah Cross isn't interested in money. He already has that. He wants legacy, control, and a future he owns, no matter how many lives it costs. In the corruption of 1930s Los Angeles, Cross engineers a crisis. He fabricates a drought, bleeds the land dry, and drives desperate farmers to sell for pennies. He did all this because he knows what's coming next. He rerouted the city's water supply, turning worthless desert into prime real estate, and chose to own it all. But land theft and water manipulation are just the surface. This brings us to how private investigator Jake Gittes starts tugging at the thread when he's hired to tail Hollis Mulray, Cross's former business partner and the head of the city's water department. Hollis suspected something wrong, and by the time he gets too close to the truth, he ends up dead, drowned in dry land. Made to look like a scandal, but Gittes doesn't let go. He keeps digging, and then he finds it. Evelyn Mulray, Cross's daughter, and his victim. Evelyn's child, Catherine, is her sister and her daughter, the product of incest, violence, and something so vile it scrapes the bottom of human behavior. Cross isn't just a corrupt mogul, he's a monster cloaked in respectability. And just when you think justice is coming, the final act arrives and the world crumbles. Evelyn tries to run, taking Catherine along, but Cross is always one step ahead. Sooner or later, the police gunned Evelyn down in the street, while Cross moved in, taking the girl as no one could stop him. On one hand, Gittes, who is powerless, was told to forget it. On the other hand, Noah Cross walks away with everything: land, water, money, and his daughter. He was untouchable as the city kept protecting him. Anton Chigurh doesn't just win in No Country for Old Men, he wins hard. In the bleakest corners of fiction, where villains triumph, Chigurh sits smugly among the elite. He's not a cackling madman or an over-the-top supervillain, he's far worse. At first, Chigurh seems like just a hitman sent to retrieve stolen drug money, but that's like calling a tornado just a breeze. He doesn't kill out of anger or revenge, he kills because of his own cold set of rules. He flips a coin to decide who lives or dies, but doesn't use the usual guns and silencers. Instead, Chigurh uses a captive bolt pistol, a tool meant for killing cattle. To him, people are no different from animals, just bodies pretending to have control. What makes Chigurh's story so disturbing is that no one really defeats him. Llewellyn Moss, the regular guy trying to escape with the money, was killed off screen. Sheriff Bell, the aging lawman holding onto ideas of justice, was left hopeless. He retires, lost in dreams and overwhelmed by a world he can't fix. Even the drug cartel can't take Chigurh down because he's not part of their game. He is the game. By the end, Chigurh gets what he wants: the money, the target, and the silence that follows. Just when it seems the world might finally strike back, a car crashes into him, leaving him with broken bones. But like a figure from legend, he crawls out of the wreck, pays off two shocked teenagers, and vanishes. Fate, which he uses too cruelly on others, finally touches him, but it doesn't stop him. This isn't just a case of the bad guy winning, it's a world where his way of thinking actually works. Li Wu Jin. Some villains want power, others want chaos, but Li Wu Jin wants something else entirely: revenge. Not the one driven by rage, but a carefully built plan. In Oldboy, his revenge isn't loud or messy, it's quiet, exact, and took years, resulting in a perfect tragedy. The story starts with Ode-Su, an average man who drinks too much and talks too much. One night, he vanishes without a trace and wakes up in a private prison with no face and a TV bolted to the wall. Time stops meaning anything. Then it starts to mean something. Dae-Soo is trapped for 15 years and his wife is murdered. His daughter also disappears and he's blamed for it. The world believes he did it, and then he's suddenly released. But this is only the second act. Li Wu Jin, who is now a wealthy man, opens the door himself, chasing answers and fighting until meets a woman named Mi-Do. They fall in love, or so it seems. Then comes the final twist. Mi-Do turned out to be his long-lost daughter. Wu Jin made sure they met, made sure they bonded. He even used hypnosis to speed up their connection. It wasn't an accident, it was a trap set long ago. Why go to such lengths? Because years earlier, Dae-Soo saw something in high school. Wu Jin and his sister, too close, too intimate. He made a comment, just a few careless words, but those words turned into rumors. The rumors grew. They destroyed Wu Jin's sister, and she took her own life. Meanwhile, he didn't forget, but turned her into a destruction of the soul. Dae-Soo breaks down as Wu Jin cuts out his own tongue to keep Mi-Do from learning the truth. But it's too late. The damage is done. He'll carry it forever. In the end, he steps into an elevator, smiles softly, and shoots himself. His plan is finished. His enemy is ruined, and he dies exactly how he chooses. Like the Wicker Man, in the bright, peaceful lands of Summer Isle, evil doesn't hide in the dark or wear a scary mask. Just like the Wicker Man, there's no killer on the loose, no chase scene, just a happy village and a man slowly realizing he's already lost. The man is named Sergeant Neil Howie, a strict, deeply religious Christian police officer who flies to Summer Isle to look into the disappearance of a girl named Rowan Morrison. The letter was sent without a name. Howie believes in God, in justice, and in rules, none of which mean anything once he arrives. The villagers are kind but slippery. They act like Rowan never existed. They sing odd songs, celebrate nature, speak freely about sex and sacrifice. They're not villains to themselves, just faithful followers of a very old way, and that's where the real fear lies. Lord Summerisle, the island's smooth talking and calm leader, doesn't act like a villain. He's polite, soft spoken, and logical. He doesn't threaten or punish, he simply believes. The crops have failed, the gods must be pleased. A sacrifice is needed, and Howie is perfect. He checks every box, a man of power, a virgin, a true believer, and he came of his own free will. That's the key. The entire mystery of the letter, the missing girl, the strange behavior was just a trap. A giant, carefully planned setup, and Howie walks straight into it. Only at the end, when he rescues Rowan and tries to run, is the truth revealed. She wasn't in danger, she was never lost, and this makes Howie the chosen one. The villagers gather, and the Wicker Man, a huge wooden statue filled with animals and now a human, stands waiting. Howie begs, prays, and pleads for sense and justice, but the villagers sing happily. Lord Summerisle looks on, calm and pleased. They believe the sacrifice will bring new life. The crops will grow, and Howie burns. He recites Psalm 23 as flames rise around him. It's a heartbreaking moment with faith meeting death and hope facing the end. But no one hears him. His words are lost in joyful music and celebration. However, the worst part is that this story isn't about a man being beaten by obvious evil. It's about him being destroyed by people who see their actions as sacred. Tom and Daisy Buchanan. Many stories display evil lurking in shadows and plotting in secret, but The Great Gatsby shows us a different kind of evil. If there were ever villains who won through money, carelessness, and privilege, it's Tom and Daisy Buchanan. Tom doesn't need to be smart. He doesn't change, grow, or pretend to be decent. From the first page to the last, he's a wall of arrogance, a man so confident in his wealth and status that he treats everyone else as unimportant. He cheats on Daisy, looks down on others, and throws people aside when they no longer serve him. The scariest thing about Tom isn't his cruelty, it's that he never pays for it. Daisy is more complicated. Her cruelty is hidden behind charm. She seems like the dream Gatsby holds onto. Gentle, lovely, full of promise. But Daisy doesn't shine because of who she is. She shines because the world lets her. She's the perfect example of someone with privilege and no accountability. Fragile only when it helps her, and emotional only when it's safe. Meanwhile, Gatsby devotes his life to her. He changes everything, including his name, his fortune, his home, all to win back a dream that was never real. The tragedy isn't just Gatsby's death, it's that Tom and Daisy win. They face no consequences. There's no big reveal, no justice, no moment where someone finally calls them out, because they don't wear masks. Their evil is casual. It's in how they leave town after Gatsby's murder, a man who died to protect Daisy, taking the blame for her careless mistake. And they don't leave a note, an apology, or any guilt, just silence, wealth, and destruction. Fitzgerald didn't just write a doomed romance, he wrote a quietly terrifying horror story of systems. A world where people like Gatsby, who are poor, hopeful, and determined, are doomed from the start. A world where people like Tom and Daisy never lose, because the rules were made to protect them. They didn't need to win, the game was already theirs. And the worst part? Tom will keep going. He got a new house, a new affair. And at this point, it doesn't matter. Their world will always cushion them. They won't change. They won't feel guilt. They won't fall. They'll just drift on by ruining lives and walking away. That's what makes this ending one of literature's darkest, not because the villains were strong, but because they never had to fight at all.